This is the Louie T Network.
In the L.A.B room.
Exclusive.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on this In the Lab Room Divisional Breakdown Special. Here to break down the AFC North Division. And so let's get right to the board. I don't want to waste any time. Here's a division that's only separated by 2 games. So there is still hope for other teams in this division to come back and steal this division. And there's a team at the top of this division that isn't used to being at the top of this division, that being the Cincinnati Bengals. But at 8-4, up 2 games with 2 to go, the Cincinnati Bengals have a realistic shot of wrapping this division up. Now, they have to play better football, and I'll explain that here in a second, but let's start at the top of this AFC North Division. Cincinnati Bengals are your divisional leaders in the clubhouse at 8-4. They're 2-2 in the division, so that leaves a little bit left to be desired. You're going to win this division. You need to win more games within this division. I need the Cincinnati Bengals to win their remaining games in this division. I need them to finish up as a divisional winner at 4-2 in this division. I need them to clean the rest of their slate up in this division and finish up at 4-2. No worse than 3-3 in this division. I don't like to see divisional winners struggle within the division and win the division. I want to see you be somewhat dominant. You know, you're not going to win all your games. It's rare that a team cleans their division up. It happens all the time, but it's rare. And I know that is somewhat of an oxymoron. It happens all the time, but it's rare. But it's something that can happen. But it's rare that a team goes in and wins all of their games within the division. You normally slip up here or there once or twice. You've already lost in this division twice. And again, the losses to the Browns, those are the ones that always get to me. If you're Cincinnati, you got to find a way to beat Cleveland at Cleveland. You always struggle with them in Cleveland. You did that again this year. But your remaining games look like this. Home for Indy, that's going to be a tough matchup. The Indianapolis Colts are struggling right now, especially on the road without Reggie Wayne. That's definitely a winnable game at home. At Pitt, you've already taken care of them earlier in the season, 20-10 on Monday Night Football. However, you've struggled with these guys in the past, especially at Heinz Field. Let's see if you can get that done. Home for Minnesota, home for Baltimore. The reason why this outlook for the season is so positive for me for the Cincinnati Bengals, you're 5-0 at home. You have not lost a home game all season long. And so 3 of your final 4 games are at home. So you right there, you got to feel confident that at worst, you're going to finish up this season at 7-1, 8-0 at home. You've got a distinct advantage when you're at home. You play better football when you're at home. And you've got 3 out of your final 4 games at home. So right there, I feel confident that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to win this division because they have 3 out of their last 4 at home, and they've been such a good football team at home. You look at this remaining slate, I can see you beating Indy. At Pitt is the one that I think if you're going to lose one, that's the one that's probably going to get you. Home for Minnesota, that's a winnable game, and so is home for Baltimore. That's going to be a big game. That could ultimately decide the division depending on how you fare in the next 3 weeks. That last game could be for the division. If you decide to drop one of these next 3 games and the Ravens win all 3 of theirs, they come in at 9-6, you come in at 10-5. That last game is going to be for the division because they already have beaten you once this season in Baltimore. So they would own the tiebreaker with another victory over you if these 2 teams were to finish the season tied. So if you're Cincinnati, just win. Just win football games. Put this division away. Just winning will take care of itself because I don't think the Ravens are going to finish up clean down the stretch. So just win. You win football games, you'll put yourself in a position to not only clinch this division, but to elevate your status in the AFC conference itself. And so we'll see what happens. But right now, the Cincinnati Bengals are in the driver's seat in this division and are currently the 4 seed in the AFC conference. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, and your Super Bowl defending champions, your AFC North defending champions, yada yada yada. Right now at 6-6, would be in the playoffs. If it started today, they would be your 6th seed in the AFC conference. So right now, Baltimore Ravens doing enough, just enough to get into the postseason, but they've got a lot of work left to do. 3-2 in this division says to me that they're winning games in this division. They've beaten every single team in this division at least one time. Already losing to Cleveland, already losing to Pittsburgh. They've got one game left in this division against Cincinnati. If they take care of that game, that could be for the division. I've already kind of broken that down with all the scenarios with Cincinnati. So you look at this remaining slate for the Ravens: home for Minnesota, at Detroit, home for New England, and wrapping up the season at Cincinnati. Of all the teams in this division, I think they have the toughest remaining schedule in this division. I mean, you look at Minnesota, that's a scary team. You're facing Adrian Peterson. Who knows what the quarterback position holds for the Minnesota Vikings, but just facing Adrian Peterson is enough to make you a little worried about this football game at home. That's a game you should be able to win. Defensively, you need to dominate that game and win, but you're going to have to stop Adrian Peterson to do so. At Detroit, that's going to be a tough one to get. And the Lions, by no means are they juggernauts. And they turn the football over at will. And so you'll have an opportunity in that game. If you are ready and willing and able to force some turnovers, you can win that game on the road. However, that's a high-octane offense. And you are a team that does not score a lot of points. So we'll see. We'll see if you're able to muster enough in the Motor City to get a win there. New England at home, that's a game that you routinely win, but this isn't your typical Baltimore Ravens football team. Don't know if you'll have enough to beat New England. They're starting to score points, are the Patriots. I don't know if you can score enough, but you've had success against these Patriots in the past. I could easily see you winning this game at home. At Cincinnati, that's going to be possibly for the division. If it's not, that's going to be for your playoff life. Whatever the case is, you're going to need to win as many games as you can down the stretch. And looking at your slate again, it's probably the toughest remaining schedule of anybody in this division. I could easily see you dropping 3 out of your last 4. I could easily see you winning 3 out of your last 4. What I don't see you doing is winning all 4 of these games. But again, that is possible. You could get hot. You're playing better football of late. Winners of 2 straight. So you could easily clean up Minnesota, go to Detroit, and stun the Lions, come home, take care of the Patriots, and then set up a showdown in Week 17 against the Cincinnati Bengals for the division. I could see you doing that. I could easily see you beating Minnesota, losing to Detroit, losing to New England, coming on the road to Cincinnati and winning that game, or I could see you losing that game and finishing up 1-3. So this thing could go in a number of directions for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, if you're the Ravens, just win football games. You've got a legitimate shot of still winning this division. You've got a legitimate shot of still getting into the postseason as a wild card, which is what your status is right now as the 6th seed. Just win football games. That's all that matters. Put yourself in a position so that if the Cincinnati Bengals struggle down the stretch, you'll be there to pick up the pieces and potentially win this division. That's what your goal should be, to still win the AFC North Division. Don't concede anything to this Cincinnati Bengals football team that has been wildly inconsistent on the road, but stellar at home. They could lose that one road game that they have remaining on their schedule. They could lose that one game, and that's all you need. That's the only help you need, is for them to lose one game on the road, and you win out. So just play your game, take care of your end of the deal, and see what happens at the end. And whether they find a way to give you a shot in this division or not, you need to take care of business so that you get in as a wild card on your own volition. Whatever happens, you don't want to rely on anyone else to get you a ticket to the dance. You want to cash your own ticket yourself. By winning, you'll do exactly that if you are the Baltimore Ravens. So they're in second place in this division with a legitimate shot at still winning this division if Cincinnati is to falter down the stretch. The Steelers are in third place at 5-7. To me, that's a feat in itself after the start that they had to the season, starting this year 0-4. Hard to even imagine the Steelers being right in the thick of things in the playoff race in the AFC, but they still are at 5-7, a game behind the Ravens. And so at 2-2 in this division, I think the division is all but done. They can't win this division. They're too far behind. They have to have too many things happen in their favor, and they got to do something that they haven't done all season, and that's get hot and win 4 straight. Don't see that happening either. But this is the remaining slate for the Steelers. Week 14, home for Miami, home for Cincinnati in Week 15, then on the road at Green Bay in Week 16, finish up the season home for Cleveland. Of all the teams remaining in this division, I think they have the softest schedule to finish out the season. So if anybody was going to try to win, 4 straight, it could be this Pittsburgh Steelers team. This Miami game is going to be, I think, an elimination game for both teams. If the Dolphins lose this game, they'll still have a shot. They won't be eliminated, but every loss down the stretch for a team that's 6-6 or 5-7 is going to be extremely detrimental to their cause trying to get into the postseason. And the Dolphins are at 6-6. The Steelers are at 5-7. The Steelers don't have any margin for error. A loss here, and they're all but done, depending on what these other teams do that are in the race themselves. So if you're the Steelers, you can't lose to a team that you're trying to leapfrog to get into the postseason. You need to beat this Dolphins team that's at 6-6. So that if you finish tied with them, you own the tiebreaker. You lose this game, you're probably going to be done in this whole race to get into the postseason. So that's a big game. Cincinnati at home, another huge game. All these games are huge for the Steelers at this point. They need to win every single one of them. They don't have any margin for error. So that's going to be a big game for them at home. They've already lost to the Cincinnati Bengals team at Cincinnati earlier in the season. So that's going to be a big game. At Green Bay, you don't know what you're getting from the Packers. By that time, I think Aaron Rodgers will be back, but you can't say for certain if he'll be back or not. Who's to say the Packers just don't shut him down for the season? After getting a couple of reports from some doctors that say, hey, you know what? With 4 games remaining, you probably should just shut him down and just come back next year. So you don't know what's going to happen, but that's going to be a tough win if Aaron Rodgers is, in fact, in the lineup. If he's not, that's a game that could easily go in the favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you look at Week 17 finishing up the season at home versus Cleveland. So 3 of your final 4 games are at home. If you're the Steelers, that's a favorable setup for you down the stretch. Miami, Cincinnati, and Cleveland all being at home with your lone road game being in Week 16 against the Packers. You could easily clean that up. I don't see you doing that because you haven't been a consistent football team all season long. I don't see you just all of a sudden getting hot and winning 4 straight. I just don't see it happening. Probably what's more conceivable down the stretch for you is 2-2. Cincinnati could be a game that you lose. So could that game at Green Bay. You could even lose this Miami game coming up in week number 14. Hard to say. Again, this team has been so inconsistent. You don't know what you're getting from this football team from week to week. But realistically, I think this finish down the stretch is probably going to be 2-2 for the Steelers team. And that's probably right where they need to end up, around 7-9. This hasn't been a 500 ball club for the most part this year. And so 7-9 is where I think they'll end up, which will probably yield them third in this division where they are right now. And I think that's probably the best fit for them, the way they've played football this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers to round out this season. You look at last place in this division, and it's the Cleveland Browns, and they'll probably be in the basement this year because I can see the Steelers finishing this season up at 7-9. I can't see the Browns getting to 7 wins. If you can't beat Jacksonville at home, I don't see you winning a lot of games down the stretch. So they're at 4-8. They're 2-3 in the division, which is a actual step up for them because they still have a game left in the division, and having already beat a team that they struggle with annually in the Ravens, having already beat Cincinnati, a team that they seem to always beat at home, and having a chance to still beat the Steelers, they got a shot to get to 3-3 in this division, and that's a step up for them if you are the Browns. You look at your remaining schedule: at New England in Week 14, home for Chicago Week 15, at the Jets in Week 16, at the Steelers to round out your season. So you've only got 1 home game remaining, 3 of them on the road. I could easily see you losing every single game you have left. I could easily see you winning against the Jets and having that be your only remaining win. I could see you beating the Steelers in some family business and finishing up the season 1-3 that way, or winning 2 out of your remaining 4 games against the Jets and the Steelers. I don't see you beating New England. I don't see you beating Chicago either. But again, anything can happen. You get Chicago at home. if they have a slip up, they've been struggling of late. Maybe you get them too, but realistically, for the way you've played this year, 6-10 is the best I can give you, and that would require you to win 2 out of your remaining 4 games to split your final 4. And I don't know if you're going to do that. I just don't have any confidence in your quarterback situation with a concussion for Whedon, a concussion for Jason Campbell, and you having to actually turn to a guy like Alex Tanney or someone else that you've signed off the street here recently. I honestly see you only winning 1 of your remaining 3 games, if that. 5-11, I think, is what you'll finish up at in this season. 6-10 is your best case scenario. I could easily see you finish up the season at 4-12 as well, but I think you've got one more win in you somewhere down the line, and I think that game is against the Jets in Week 16. So I think the Browns are going to round this division up at the bottom. And I think the way you see this division as it is right now is the way it'll ultimately unfold. I think Cincinnati will hold on and win the AFC North. I think the Ravens will come in at second, and they still have a really good shot at making the postseason as a wild card. They just need to win out. And I think winning your last 3 out of 4 will get you into the postseason if you're Baltimore. If you can get to 9-7, I think that'll be good enough in the AFC conference to get you a playoff berth. But that's going to require the Ravens to win 3 out of the last 4, which I think is going to be tough because they have a really tough schedule down the stretch. I think the hardest of any team in this division. I think the Steelers are going to finish third. And I look at the Browns rounding up the rear, probably at 5-11, best case scenario, 6-10 in this division. So that's going to do it for the AFC North and me here in the lab room. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Have a good one. See you next time. Like the content? Want more? Sub up.
In the Lab Room.